Hi and welcome back to Dusty Book Sniffers. I'm Nicole and today we're here for our weekly wrap-up. Well, good morning or good evening wherever you might be watching from today. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to spend with me and listen to the books that I've read in the past week. And there have been a few. I have actually been questioned a couple of times this week about how many books I actually read this week. It's really no more than normal. Probably a couple extra that one I'm a part the way through, and I've got a couple that are on the go and still not finished that I started in April and on the 1st of May. So this week's video is going to be a little bit different because I wasn't sure how many books I was actually going to get read this week. I decided that what I was going to do is just film them, like film my opinions and my thoughts directly after I finish the book. So these are relatively short, like little snippets, and you will get to see me in various different places throughout the house. And can you hear my cat? It's raining outside. I've put her outside to have a bit of a romp around it. It's just stopped raining. But she's having a bit of a whinge at me because I haven't fed her yet. So she thinks it's funny to come to the front door and start carrying on. She'll go away in a moment. Anyway, hello, it's all right, sweetie. I'll be out in a minute. Anyway, back to what I was saying. So I've just sort of filmed them as I'm finished the books. I've read some pretty amazing books this week, some that were very emotional to read, and all of them, bar one, are new authors to me. So it was great. We've had a debut novel, we've had historical fiction, we've had romance with a twist, and so let's get stuck into it, shall we?
Hi everybody. So I'm doing my weekly wrap up a little bit different this week because I've got so many books to get through and all the rest of it. I thought that as I finish them, I will just give you my thoughts on the books to make it a little bit easier for me at the end of the day, because I don't know how many books I'm going to read this week. So I thought do the weekly wrap ups and I'll just do them vlog style basically. So anyway, it's early in the morning, and I've just finished Her Name Is Night by Yasmin Engo, and that's what the cover looks like. This is a debut book from her, and oh my god, it's a thriller. It's an action thriller. And I've given it a 5-star rating. That is my feelings right now, and I'm going to rate it that because I like to rate the books as soon as I've finished reading them. And so you'll see that if you've checked out my Goodreads in the last week, you've seen that I've done that. And so basically, as I said, this is a action thriller. It has warnings, and I listened to this book as well as read along with it. And basically, it does come with warnings on the audio as well. And so basically, it's following the story of Nina Knight, and it's in two narratives. It goes into her past, so her as a 14-year-old girl, and then and then it comes back to now, and her as an adult. So you get a well-rounded idea of this character. Nina Knight, also aka Echo. She is an elite assassin for a group called the Tribe, and the Tribe collectively looks after the peoples and interests of Africa and and all that sort of stuff. So the book does touch on sexual and emotional abuse, and also human trafficking, so it's pretty heavy. And this book, and I do apologize for the moving around of my camera, but I don't have a tripod here. This book just was a roller coaster of emotions. I absolutely loved it. I loved every minute of it. 1 minute I'm got tears in my eyes, the next minute I'm cheering, the next minute I'm angry. It's just like every emotion you could think of. It It was a really good book. As I said, I've given it a 5 stars. I do believe that Yasmin is going to be a definite rising star. If you haven't read it, it is on Kindle Unlimited. As you know, this month I'm doing my Kindle Unlimited challenge. So it is on Kindle Unlimited, and it comes with audio as well. And most of the books that I've got this month, actually, I've gone back and checked, and most of them do come with audio. Although when I've added them, I didn't realise that they came with audio at the time. So I'm pretty excited to be... I'm spewing. I've got to wait. I've got to wait for the second book now. Yeah, there's some characters in there that you're going to hate. And then, there's other characters in there that you're just going to love. Nina is one of those characters that you're going to love, and you're going to be rooting for her all the way through. It was a page turner. It was fast-paced. For a debut novel, I can only imagine where she's going to go with her writing. It was very immersive. With the audio as well, it just brought the story alive even further. So I do suggest that you, while it's a great book, even without the audio, it's amazing with the audio and reading along at the same time. You'll absolutely love it. I honestly think you will. I'm not going to compare it to any other books because I think that you need to go into it with no preconceived idea of how this book's going to be. Just know it is fast paced. You will want to keep turning the pages. I had it going in my ear, even when normally if I'm doing immersive reading, I'll stop the audio and go do what I got to go and do, and all the rest of it. But I didn't with this one. I just kept going because I didn't want to put the book down, and now I have to wait for her second book to come out. So I'm spewing. But anyway, it's a 5-star read for Her Name is Night on Kindle Unlimited. Go and check it out. You'll really love it, especially if you like action thrillers. You'll really, really enjoy it. And it's set in Miami, but it's also goes back to Ghana, where she was originally from. And there are some very heart-wrenching moments in it. And so if you have experience or you are triggered by sexual abuse or rape or just emotional abuse or anything like that, just be warned, it may trigger you. So just be careful of that. But if that's the sort of book that you like, you'll absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. All right, I'll check in again when I've read another book. Hi everybody, I am just checking in. I have just staggered out of bed, but I just finished reading Colleen Hoover's Layla. Oh my god, it was so different. As you know, I'm fairly new to Colleen Hoover, and I've only read It Ends With Us. So I was sort of expecting a romance type thing, and while yes, there is a romance in it, it was amazing, absolutely amazing. I could not put it down. And just the twist in it, and how she I don't want to give too much away, but if you haven't read Layla, you need to read this book because it is so different from It Ends With Us. And I am so looking forward to reading all of Colleen Hoover's books. I've got 2 more to read this month, but I just thought I'd check in and say, if you haven't read this book, you need to read this. It's a story of... It starts out like any other one. And now I must say, I did immersive reading with this. So I listened to the audio and also read the book because it came with audio. And it starts out with a story of Leeds and Layla. They're the 2 main characters. And the audio is actually, the one that I listened to is actually a male's voice. And I was a little bit put off by that at first because I thought that I just wasn't feeling it, and it was a couple of chapters in, then I started to think, oh wow, this is going to be really different. And then after I think chapter 3, or after the accident that happened, I was just hooked, and it was hook, line and sinker. And I did not expect what happened in it at all. It was totally unexpected for me. But I don't even know what to really say about this book. It's just playing on my mind, and I literally just finished it 10 minutes ago, and I thought I have to come in and do this sort of video. But I don't think I've ever in a book been rooting for someone so much to do such an act on maybe it might work, or maybe it might not work, maybe it might work. It was a huge risk, and
And I can honestly say, I don't think I've ever fist bumped, cheered on silently while reading a book either. Like, it's just a really, really good book. And, like, I sort of want to read it again right now because it was just I can't say enough about it. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God. It's just, yeah. Yeah. If you haven't read Layla, it's this one, as you know, this month I'm doing all of the Kindle Unlimited, so it's free on Kindle Unlimited if you've got that, and it comes with audio as well. I highly recommend doing immersive reading for it. It just adds to the experience. And like a couple of times, my kids have asked me to do something while I was listening to it, and I'm like, I don't want to stop the book, but I had to because I was, had to go and do stuff for them. But yeah, if you haven't read Layla by Colleen Hoover, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, it sounds so cliche, do yourself a favour and read this book. All right, that's it for me today on this one. I'm about to start my next one, and I'll check in when I've finished reading that. Well, good morning. It's the third book I've read off my Kindle list. It's called The Storyteller of Casablanca. I've just finished reading it. It's first thing in the morning. I don't know what I was expecting with this book. So, as I said, it's the Storyteller of Casablanca, and it's by Fiona Valpy, and as I said, I don't know what I was expecting. So, anyway, the book is set in 2010 and also in 1941. It is at the height of the Nazi occupation of France, and a family flees. So they flee France and head to Casablanca because that's the only way they can sort of get out. In 2010, Zoe comes to Casablanca with her husband, and their marriage is in trouble and all that sort of stuff, and she's uprooted her life and come there, and they're going to be spending the next 5 years there. She's struggling to make friends. There's underlying washing hands, like germaphobe sort of stuff and whatnot, and so it swings from a diary entry, and Zoe this is early on in the book, like in the first chapter, she finds in the attic of this house that she's living in, she finds this diary of a young girl named Josie, and so the book swings between Zoe trying to settle into Casablanca, and then swings back to the war and all the rest of it. So she's seeing Casablanca through the eyes of the 12-year-old girl that wrote this diary, and the diary spans for about 18 months, and then it just so basically it just bounces back and forward from that. I did not expect to be affected as much as I did. I read it pretty late last night and I just finished it off. I was actually crying in the last couple of chapters because of what was revealed, and I don't want to give too much away, but if you haven't read anything from Fiona Valpy, start with this book, The Storyteller of Casablanca. I really, really loved it. I was a little bit confused at first of what was happening in the 2010 period of it. Like, it alludes, like, there's a marriage issue and all that sort of stuff, and it's touching on almost germaphobe and all the rest of it, but she wraps it up so nicely at the end. So I was thinking it was sort of just an average book, and then I got about halfway through, and the story just... yeah, it really took a great
it just took off. It just, like, it wasn't slow at the beginning, not by a long shot, but it just took off, and it just, like, I was so surprised where the story went, and it's just a surprising book. And you can see my eyes are a little bit puffy because I did cry. Like, I've never been, I don't get affected by books like that, but this particular, like, yeah, it was just, I do, yeah, you really do have to read it. It is a very emotionally draining book, and they are touching on mental illness and that sort of stuff, which is quite obvious of her scrubbing her hands, but you find out why in the end. And Fiona Valpy done a wonderful job with this book, and I felt like I was being pulled into the Medina, and and to the refuge that she went to visit, and the sights and the sounds, and even some of the things that were cooked in it and stuff like that. I could picture them sitting around the table and eating, and the emotion of both what Zoe was going through and what Josie was going through, like what, and there's quilt making in it, and like she's making a quilt throughout the book, and while also reading these diary entries and whatnot, and it's just an amazing book. So I highly recommend this book. It's a 4.5 star. Like I'm right now, it's a 4.5 star. Bordering on 5. I may give it a 5 star because it did really provoke emotion into me, into my soul, and just, yeah. And I'm still thinking about it now. I finished it about 10 minutes ago, and sort of just had to think about it before I got on camera. But yeah, it's a really, really good book. I think you'll thoroughly enjoy it. And I had to sort of talk about it now because, yeah, it's an overcast day here, so it's a snuggly day for reading and whatnot, but I've got to get up for work soon and and all that. But I thought I'd just check in with you and tell you about this book, like The Storyteller of Casablanca. It's got such a beautiful cover too. Like it's on Kindle here, but you can, like, if you've watched my other video, it's yeah, like it's a beautiful view. It's like so vivid, the cover and everything in color. An amazing book, absolutely amazing book. You should really, really read it. All right, I'll check in again after I've read my next book. Bye.
All right, everybody, I just thought I'd check in again. I just finished reading the book The Shadow Rises. It is book 1 of the Witch Hunter trilogy, and it's by K.S. Marsden. And it just wasn't what I sort of expected. It's a little bit like, as the name says, it's a Witch Hunter trilogy, so he's hunting witches. He's part of an organisation that hunts the witches, and when they catch the witches, they basically take their powers, like bind their powers, and they go to prison and whatnot. I think I may have missed something at the beginning because I don't understand why they are taking the power from the witches, because they just seem that they think that they're evil, I guess. I don't know, but I found it a little bit, it's YA for me, and there's also so like a little bit of romance in there as well. And basically he's just hunting witches and catching them and all the rest of it, and their underlying love story sort of romance is starting to develop. There's a little bit of cloak and dagger element to it as well, and I would say it's young adult, most definitely. And I'm just looking here at my Goodreads. People have put it under as fantasy, paranormal fantasy, and young adult. So, and it hasn't been shelved all that much, maybe 100 and plus times. But it only has 200. The first book only has 249 pages. It was published back in 2013, and I wasn't too sure about it at first. Like, I'm getting into it, and yeah, there's the witch hunters, and then The Shadow Rises is about a powerful witch that her magic has no limits. And subsequently, as the story goes on, towards the end of the book, something happens. You work out that, it's a particular person. And so, yeah, so basically that it's just like a little bit of cat and mouse. It's sort of ended with a cat and mouse situation. The main character, which is Hunter, he is a seventh generation witch hunter. And then there's Sophie, and he's having feelings for her and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it's a little bit youngish for me, but I'm going to continue with it because I didn't see one of the twists that happened coming, and so I'm curious to see what's going to happen with that. So I am going to continue on with it. I'm not going to continue. It is on audio, and I think it's only got, at the speed that I read it, I think it's only got like 6 hours left or something in it. Now, I could possibly just keep going today and get that series finished, but I've got too much to do and I want to move on to the next one. So I'm going to hold that over until next month and I'll finish it off then. Yeah. Overall, I'm going to give it a 3-star rating. It's just an average read. There's nothing spectacular about this book, so it's never going to get up there to the 4 or 5 mark. The magic system's pretty basic in it. It's like, although that has actually just taken a little bit of a development, so maybe it's going to develop a little bit further. The fantasy level of it, well, it's just witches and witch hunters. There's no paranormal stuff in it. I would not have put it under paranormal. The only paranormal element in it would be that this witch is rising, but it's not, if that makes any sense at all. But that is the Shadow Rises, the first book in the Witch Hunter series. So I'm going to see how it goes. I'm hoping that it'll develop a little bit further. As I said, the books aren't super big. This one was only $249, and I believe the others are only about that as well, because there's only 6 hours left on the audio at 2 times speed. So because the audio is very slow. Most times I listen between 1.8 to 2, depending on the narrator. And the if you do happen to get it and get it with the audio, the narrator is actually pretty good. He doesn't drone on too much, so that always is a pretty good thing. Anyway, off to finish some work and get on to my next book.
All right, so I just finished The Last Rose of Shanghai. That is the author. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. So, yeah, it wasn't a bad story, but I only gave it 3 stars. It was okay. It was reasonably paced and whatnot. It is in 2 narratives, so you've got 2 points of view. You've got the female character telling her point of view, and then you've got Ernest, so you've got so you've got I don't know how to say it, Angoe, I think her name is, and then you've got Ernest. Ernest is a Jewish refugee that has escaped from Germany and come to Shanghai. Shanghai has fallen to the Japanese. It's set in the World War II, but it starts off with Angoe in 1980, and she's wanting a documentary made about Ernest and what he did for the Jewish refugees and all that sort of thing. So there is a bit of a twist. It is a love story. He falls in love with her. They're both into music, like she's into jazz, and then she hires him. And there's a lot of prejudice against foreigners and stuff like that by the Chinese people. And subsequently she falls in love, but she's actually engaged and has been since birth. And anyway, a love story ensues, and then there's all the problems around that. And then there's all the problems of her hiring a foreigner and the repercussions of that. And then in the backdrop, you've got the Japanese soldiers there, and you've got Americans and British people. You know, there's some tycoons and all that sort of stuff. And she's quite wealthy. She owns her own club. And then, as I said, subsequently she hires Ernest to play the piano. And yeah, and they fall in love, and there's betrayal, there's love, there's, secrets, there's heartache, everything that revolves around that. So, it was nothing out of the ordinary. There was a bit of a twist at the end, which was really good. I did enjoy that bit of it. I give it 3 stars because it was a good story, and for me, 3 stars is just an average read, but there's nothing really wrong with it. It was still a great story to read, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I actually used a readathon, and I finished it Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to everybody. So basically, I used as I said, a readathon through Gina Lucia Reads on Instagram. And so it was really good that I got that done. And as I said, I really enjoyed it. It had a lot of, there was a lot of stuff with the war, and that was the main basis of it. And the having the Japanese in occupied Shanghai and all the drama that went with it. There was a couple of, moments that it sort of lulled a little bit, but it picked up pretty quickly, like within a couple of pages it picked up again and all that sort of stuff. But it's still a really good story. And as I said, it's called The Last Rose of Shanghai. And that was a song that he played for her, and that's why it was called that. So yeah, it just covers a bit of that sort of stuff. Refugees, what they went through, the prejudice, the racism, all that sort of stuff, not marrying outside your own kind, all that sort of stuff. But as I said, it's Mother's Day, and so that means it's Sunday, and I'm going to move on to my next book. I'm actually reading Musical Youth, and that is the prompt for Antigua. So I'm going to move on to that now and see if I can't get that finished today. All right, I'll check in again another time. Bye.
Well, as you can see, I read a few different books this week from very different authors and whatnot. They were all fantastic books. I enjoyed reading all the books that I read this week. I've also started Gone with the Wind, which I think I talked about last week that I was starting. I've read the first 100 pages of that. This week I'm moving on to the next 100 pages, and that will be what I'll do for the next, I think it's 12 weeks we've got set down for it. I ended up doing, for those that are joining us and haven't been over into the Discord, I ended up doing a reading schedule, and you'll find that up over there, especially for those that are listening to this on audiobook, because it's really hard to tell where you're at on the 100 pages. So I've worked all that out for you, and all you need to do is you can download it to your phone and then save it to your notes, and it'll be there for you, or you can print it off. Either way, it's a PDF, so it'll make it super simple. I'm still part the way through Musical Youth. I didn't get that finished on the weekend. I really wanted to, and that is for one of my Read Around the World prompts, and that's why I haven't discussed any of it. And also Into Oblivion is also, if you're following me over on Instagram, you would have seen my May Reads template, my story template, where I put up all the books that I'm finished. I have read Into Oblivion, I think it's called, off the top of my head, because I've actually put it out of my head now. Basically, I've got to film that today, and then that'll go up on the channel in the next couple of weeks or so, because I've got a few other things going up prior to that. And I'm also still reading or listening to Pickwick Papers when I'm cross-stitching, which I haven't done much of that because I've been working on the magazine. And what else am I listening to? Not listening to. I'm reading Sunday Best still, and I'm hoping to have that finished by the end of the month. I think I'm up to 100 pages now, 120 pages. So I've just been reading a little bit of that each day. So that's what I've pretty much been doing. Now, to answer the questions of how I get to read so much, all my kids have grown up. So I work at home, so I don't have to leave the house. Where I'm sitting right now is where I work. So that is how I get to spend a lot of time reading. So I don't have to get up and rush and do the grind every morning. So I wake up fairly early. And so I'll spend an hour or two, sometimes 3 hours, depending on what time I get up in the morning. And then I'll finish my day off with 2 or 3 hours of reading as well. And then in my lunch, I take a lunch break every day as well. And I'll go and sit at the kitchen table, and I will take my book with me. Sometimes I might watch TV, but most times I'll just take my book with me, and I'll read for an hour because I take a lunch hour. And so that's how I get a lot of reading in. So when you add that up over the week, and if I'm busy and I'm working all day, I sometimes might have an audiobook on too, if I'm at the long arm machine or I'm at the sewing machine. If I'm doing computer work, I don't tend to listen to a audiobook because I don't keep track of it well enough. But when I'm standing there doing quilting, where I'm just pretty much babysitting a machine to make sure that everything's going well, I don't have to really think that much because I've been doing it for such a long time. And sewing, I don't really have to think a lot about that either. And if you've been over to my other channel, you know that I'm a prolific sewer as well. So I sew every single day, just about. Sometimes I don't. And cross-stitching, well, again, I'm listening to audiobooks. So and that's where the classics come in. So I usually listen, like at the moment, I'm listening to the Pickwick Papers when I'm cross-stitching. So I pop that in, and that's quite funny, actually. I've been really enjoying that. Didn't think I was going to, but I have been really enjoying that. I think I'm up to like 400 pages I'm getting close to, I think. Because I think I'm about halfway through. So yeah, I'll be getting up to around the 400 mark. So that, and then, you know, as I said, sometimes I'll read for 2 or 3 hours in the morning, and I usually read for 2 or 3 hours in the evening, and then an hour. And if I did that every day, that's like nearly 7 hours a day over a weekly period. 7 sevens are, what's that work out to be? That's 42, 49. Math is not working on a Monday morning, I'm telling you. So, you know, that's 49 hours of actual reading a book that I can get in. And then on top of that, I've also got audio as well. So that's how I tend to get a lot of reading done and how many books I get done. And, you know, sometimes I'm sitting around waiting for the kids as well, so I'll read then as well. So wherever I can fit it in, I sort of fit it in. And that's how I managed to smash out so many books. Anyway, that's it from me today. Thank you again for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this little different style of finishing off the books and then talking about them and giving you my immediate star rating. And I think I'm going to do that throughout the month of May because I don't know how many books I'm going to get read each week, and some of the ones that I've got coming up, most of them are audio, and I've got a lot of quilting to do, so I'll probably get a book done a day. So, you know, if by the time I roll around for next week, that could be up to about 9 books. Now, I won't be talking about the Read Around the World books on my weekly wrap-up. If I finish them in that week, I will end up filming them, and then I will just schedule them up, and they will go up as they go. So they will be included in my stories template, but they won't necessarily be spoken about on the Monday unless it's coming up on the Friday. You'll get told that it's coming up. So anyway, that is it from me today. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going back to work on the magazine. I've got about 8 hours left of layout, production, and getting it off to the proofreader today. So it's going to be a pretty long day in front of the computer. Luckily, it's a miserable day, and I don't mind doing computer work on a miserable day. Have a wonderful day, everybody. I hope that everybody enjoyed their Mother's Day yesterday. I have been tagged in a Mother's Day video, so I will do that in a mum tag. So I'll do that in the next couple of days, and then that'll go up. But have a fabulous day, everybody, and I will see you all again next week for my next weekly wrap up. Bye for now.